You'll be quite handy with a needle yourself, Jonathan. Let me tell you, you're not the first gynaecologist to use that spoon, but it's always an honour. Confidentially, I wouldn't mind a word with you later about one or two matters.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Jonathan Creek podcast, where, Ian, I need to have a word with you about a spoon. You should be honoured.
You're not the first gynaecologist to have his hands on that spoon.
I'm not a gynaecologist.
Yes, Jonathan.
How are you?
I'm alright.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's weirdly warm. How are you?
Tired.
Yeah.
As you know, off the caffeine for a month. I'm 4 days in now. Feel like a zombie.
You walk past every coffee shop and drool.
I have literally been dreaming about drinking coffee. It's terrible.
It sounds like a living nightmare. I've just finished a nice cup of coffee myself.
I can see that. I can smell that. I watched you. Thanks very much. I'm on decaf tea at the moment.
Delicious.
Be worth it. This isn't for, as you know, it's not for health benefits. It's a wager. So
yes,
it'll be worth it in the end.
There aren't any health benefits
of not drinking coffee.
Of not drinking caffeine.
Yeah, probably some.
Unless you're an addict.
I think I am. 8 or 9 caffeine drinks a day.
The fact you punched that guy and stole his coffee the other day, that's a big clue.
Realised it was decaf, threw it in his face.
That's it.
Anyway.
They say it'll make a full recovery.
So I'm not in the best of moods anyway, and I had to put up with this drivel.
Oh, it's a terrible episode.
It is garbage.
Absolutely. From conception to execution, every part of it is awful.
It reminded me, if we reference Columbo once more, of Dagger of the Mind, an early Columbo episode that was a real turkey, a real steaming turd.
I think that's probably a fair description of this one. People must have been really disappointed when they saw this.
Well, perhaps you're wrong. Perhaps that's not the general consensus, but this is actually so bad. There's points where you're laughing at it. I think it's meant to be serious, and we've discussed it before we started recording here. There are points that are just laughable.
Absurd. And the best performers are given the smallest parts.
Yeah, 2 of the biggest names are reduced to minor comic roles.
If that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's poorly judged.
I'd say so. So, let's get it out of the way.
Fair enough. Hopefully the folk who love this episode will also find something of worth. We don't mind if you disagree with us.
If you disagree with us, tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah, come find us within the website or wherever else and give us an earful.
Yeah, do you have a summary for us?
I didn't bother this week because it's so terrible.
Can you come up with one anyway?
Okay, let's go.
Crack on.
In the curious tale of Mr. Spearfish, Jonathan and Maddie are introduced to Lenny and Alice, an ostensibly everyday couple who have a dark tale to tell about how they recently came into money. With the occult seemingly in play and no rational explanation for a series of incredible events, can Jonathan net the truth, or will this be one case to wriggle off the hook?
Thanks, Ian. The curious tale of... Even the title annoys me. Like the crap tale of Mr. Spearfish.
It's not even a real name. There's nobody called Spearfish out there.
Nope. So maybe if you're a Inuit. Could be. But he didn't.
That would make sense.
He doesn't look like an Inuit.
No, an idiot. That's what he looks like.
Indeed. We begin this week at the windmill where Maddie arrives with about 8 bags of laundry. So it's actually a decent start. I quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's an incredulous Jonathan who comes down the stairs, and all the more so when Maddie explains that he's going to be doing most of this washing for her.
Yeah. We also discover that Adam has an embarrassing court date the next morning, which involves a kipper.
Yeah, he apparently has propositioned a girl from room service with a kipper.
We'll find out more about that later.
Yeah.
Maddie and Jonathan are going to meet a Jewish woman named Sadie Bechtenstein. Is that how you pronounce it?
Bechtenstein? I don't know.
Sadie.
She thinks that Maddie's Jewish. And it becomes apparent that Jonathan also believed that, even though it's never come up before and has never been mentioned, and then somehow is common throughout this entire episode.
And he asks Maddie to confirm that Sadie knows that he's not Jewish.
Yeah, I think he's well aware what Maddie's like with the truth when it comes to these things, and he's concerned about how he's been introduced.
Yeah, well, she's definitely not been telling fibs, has she?
Oh, obviously not. There's no way she'll have told them anything about Jonathan that isn't exactly the truth.
They arrive at Sadie's house, and Jonathan is greeted as Dr. Creek.
Yes.
Before they enter and are introduced to Sadie's husband, Saul the accountant. That's, again, quite a cliched.
Better Call Saul.
Yeah, and their neighbours, Alice and Lenny Spearfish.
Is that short for Leonard, do you think?
Think so. Over dessert, Maddie has to be helped out by Jonathan. How?
Well, she's asked to think about the kippa that Saul's wearing, and she thinks she's being asked about the food.
Is that not what Adam propositioned?
That was a kipper.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, similar. I don't know if kippa's the word they use, I can't remember. But in any event, she thinks that the question's about the food, it's actually about the hat. And it's only with Jonathan's nod and a wink that she's able to cover her tail successfully.
Yeah. We then find out more about Jonathan's medical background, as we heard at the top of the podcast.
That's highly... I mean, we've talked about inappropriate behaviour in this show. Now, we both lived through the 90s. This wasn't normal. You didn't talk to folk about gynecological matters at the dinner table.
Never mind talking about it. You didn't use a spoon.
No, and you didn't reference the spoon. In fact, you probably wouldn't have raised the topic even in private if it wasn't a professional... I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you would. I don't know.
If it was your friend, or you'd known him for a
never met
while.
before.
Exactly. Anyway,
What's wrong with actually going to a gynecologist?
who knows, but in an attempt to change the subject, Maddie asks the Spearfishes about themselves, and things immediately...
I'm going to take issue with you.
Okay.
Surely the plural of fish is fish, so it'll just be the spearfish.
Oh, okay. Maddie asks the Spearfish about themselves, and things immediately take a turn.
I think I should...
So, anyway, Lenny, what line of business are you in? You seem to have done very well for yourself.
Yes, we came into some money. Totally by chance one day.
Would be one way of looking at it. Or then again, chance may have had nothing to do with it.
Well, it just happened that
Come
way.
on, Alice, I think we can share the secret of our success with them. Why shouldn't they know the truth? That I sold my soul to the devil. Sorry. Suppose that's a bit of a conversation stopper. Whoops. What kind of a cranky tale's he gonna spin us? Well, no more or less than the truth. I can promise you.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, that's Lenny. An idiot. There's so much wrong with that. Again, I don't want to be too insulting, but the writing throughout this entire episode is...
It doesn't
seem
ring
natural.
true. It's like, that's
Yeah.
not how people speak,
Yeah.
for a start. Even characters like... I suppose it's his character, he can speak however he wants him to, but it doesn't ring true.
No, it's got a touch of the David Brents about him as well.
Absolutely, he does. If he was at a dinner party with me, that would be as much of his story as he got to tell before
Yeah.
I was interrupting him and saying, hang on a minute.
Yeah, or just, you can even say, yeah, just be saying, laugh at him and then turn to the person next to you and continue a conversation.
Yeah.
He thinks he's some sort of raconteur. Oh, what's this tale you're...
He's not going to hold the attention
No,
of
you laugh
any
and say,
people.
shut up, stop talking rubbish.
Idiot.
He is an idiot. And the fact is, well, even if he believes this nonsense about selling your soul, you must appreciate that how ridiculous it does sound. You wouldn't bring this up at a dinner party and with lots of strangers.
No, you definitely wouldn't. It would just... You would use your judgment and not mention it.
Correct. Anyway, he goes on to explain what he means, and through flashbacks, performs a terribly written monologue, which concludes in him signing his name in blood on a parchment in an old mystical shop. Now, Ian, right, why was he even in this old shop?
There's something vaguely racist about the shop. Can
Yeah.
I say that to start with?
That it was like Gremlins.
Lifted straight of Gremlins, dumped into London,
Yep.
but still run by a gentleman of Eastern Asian persuasion.
Why would you sign this piece of paper?
And it
In
clearly
blood?
wasn't blood he was signing with either. It was virtually see-through, it was like orange.
Yeah, but I don't understand. Let's say you were tempted by cash. So let's say you're in the shop and the owner says, you know what, I'll give you, 50 grand
Yeah.
for your soul.
They're making it out like he's got nowhere else to turn, and he does this out of desperation.
Who
That's-
does that? You should be
nobody-
locked up.
Yes.
If you're in a position where you're so desperate, where your life's falling apart, that you take your own blood, prick your own finger in a shop, and sign your soul apparently to the devil, that's a mental illness, and you should probably be sectioned for this
I would
behaviour.
say so. I think that's absolutely reasonable. It's like Well, the debt collector's come round to his house the next day. He's like, no, hold on, got this document.
Yeah, the guy is an idiot.
Yes.
He's unlikable as well. You don't even feel sorry for him.
No, he's deeply unpleasant. Shortly after signing this document, he digs up £1 million treasure hoard in his garden. This reminded me of the story of Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon religion,
Okay.
who was told by God, go out in your back garden, next to the tree, start digging. And deep in the ground, he found buried these shining plates of gold that had the Book of Mormon written on them, but in a language only he could translate, putting rocks in front of his eyes.
He's in the same
It's
category.
the same basic thing, isn't it?
Yeah, idiot.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
what else can you say about this? And his wife's not much better.
No, she reminded me of one of the characters from House of Monkeys. Every time you see her, she's crying and looking as if she's about to burst into tears.
She's not given much agency in the story. She kind of just goes along with everything. He treats her appallingly and she just accepts it and feels bad when she isn't happy about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if you really twist it a little bit, you could say, oh, she's such a fundamentalist religious person that she believes in this whole sanctity of marriage and putting up with all this sort of
But
rubbish.
there's never any examples. We're just sort of told this, but
Yeah.
there doesn't seem to be any.
And that can't be it, because she does eventually have enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's an inquest hearing of some kind. They're awarded this treasure,
Yeah.
which they're able to presumably sell.
Yeah, but before that, we find out that she's found this deed for his soul. She's not happy about it because of her religious
Yeah, and she
beliefs.
chucks it in a box. I'm intrigued. They never tell us, how do they go from having this box of treasure to liquidating it? Surely there's not a guy who's going to give them, oh, here's £1 million for your treasure.
No, I mean, I think it seemed to be, I think they said within a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's all really quick.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen. I think there would be a long, drawn-out process where they would have tried to identify the rightful owners. They would give a period of time where other parties could stake their claim.
Yep.
They would have to analyse and research the actual bounty itself.
And here's the thing, so do they liquidate it, or are they borrowing against the treasure, which isn't going to change in value?
Yeah, who knows?
Anyway, this soul parchment, or whatever you want to call it, gets put in a box, and then as they leave the house burns down, and their old life is gone.
Burned to hell.
Something like that.
We're in the car.
This is a trope now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think we maybe mentioned this before being a trope. Jonathan moans to Maddie about what's been going on.
Indeed.
He didn't appreciate having to give gynecological advice to Sadie.
No. Just then, they see Alice and Lenny up ahead in their convertible car having an argument.
Yes, they're arguing at the side of the road, and Alice gets out the car and walks away from the car as Lenny drives off somewhere.
He wants to go to the casino, that's the argument. He wants to continue the evening and she wants to go home.
Yeah, they don't seem very compatible.
They're not at all. So he just dumps her at the side of the road.
What kind of person does that?
Because it's not even like a massive fallout, it's just like...
You want to go out? No, I'm
No,
fine, thanks. Let's
I'll
go
go.
to bed. Well,
Yeah.
get out, here you go. I'm rich now, I can do what I want.
So Maddie offers her a lift home, and before she gets out of the car, Alice tells them that what they saw was not the real Lenny. He's been changed by the money and what has been happening in his life, and she's obviously very downbeat. We cut to the next morning. Where are we?
At Adam's trial.
Yes, and we have some nice comedy, I would say, as the complainant against Adam describes what went on as he looks on from the dock. So can you describe what went on apparently?
Well, she came to his door with breakfast. He admitted her wearing only some kind of silky kimono gown. Now, at this point, the prosecutor does a little bit of leading of the witness.
Correct.
Questions are not really appropriate. But in any event, he's guiding her through this story inappropriately. And she mentioned, I think a kipper falls to the floor. And when she stands up from collecting it, his kimono has flown open and she's been presented with Adam standing to attention and then harassed by him in a provocative way.
Yeah, we see the gallery. Is that what it's called, the gallery?
Yeah, you could call it that.
In the court. They're all laughing and giggling away. Everyone, in fact, is at this story. It's
Yeah.
very unprofessional.
The judge does not do a good job of keeping order, and it gets worse as we go through the trial.
It certainly does. So with the court adjourned, Adam comes out in a rage to be met by some autograph hunters, which he gets Jonathan to sign. What does he compare his situation to?
Yeah, he says this is as bad as what they did to Kennedy.
I think actually what he says is it's not an exaggeration to say, this is as bad as what happened to JFK.
Yeah.
Jonathan points out, I think that is probably a dictionary definition of an exaggeration.
Indeed. Over at the Spearfish mansion, Alice puts her greeting face back on as Lenny sits in the garden discussing financial business with some woman from a financial agency.
Yeah, the first thing that stood out for me was that even in the late 90s, that house in that part of the country, I'm assuming it's down London Way, would have been worth more than the 1.2 million
Yeah.
that they've got. So, I mean, I suppose there are different ways of managing your money, but still.
It wouldn't be a cash purchase. They'd have a mortgage on it, but it would need to be based on the value of the house and their ability to pay the mortgage.
Sure.
So they've got 1.3 million, but that's not income.
1.2.
Or whatever
No,
it is.
I mean, I suppose that you could probably pay the mortgage off with the interest. However, I'm not sure if a bank would lend against that because you'd need a substantial deposit.
Yep.
Because this guy's a gambler. So the
Well,
bank's not sitting there going, oh, that's fine, we'll give you the mortgage, but you can go out and gamble it and drink it and do whatever you like with it. So
Unless they're renting it.
I don't think I'm not sure if you become a millionaire that you rent, but 1.2 million is not that much in London when you're buying places like that.
Well, in London now, it gets you a 2-bedroom sort of.
If you're lucky.
That's it.
Yeah. Anyway, Alice watches on disapprovingly as Lenny does some of this, some business. Did you mention some business with a financial consultant in the garden?
Yeah, he's talking about how best to invest his £1 million.
And when he comes in, Alice lets him know what she thinks and is sceptical of the parasites that surround him, like Anthea Spacius was the investment consultant who has just left.
Alice thinks they all just want their hands on the money. Now, her attitude is strange.
Well,
She's kind of swung from being upset at Lenny's behaviour to being upset at people trying to take their money. It's not a consistent...
sure, I think that might be. I mean, she's, I think, more conservative, more sensible, so she doesn't like him partying, and she's also worried, and quite rightly so, as soon as someone's got a bit of cash, people swarm in from all directions.
Yeah, but she now goes on to say that they're benefiting from something evil and they should consult the church. So she maybe thinks they don't deserve this money, so why would she care if folk took it from them?
Yeah, that's true. She wants to consult the church. I mean, an exorcism
What
required.
Jesus says is increase your gifting. Your tithe should be £1 million.
Oh, it's this whole thing.
Why not invest in communion wine?
Yeah.
Lenny has no interest at all in taking advice from the church.
No, he pours a vodka and dismisses her worries.
That's it.
We're at the casino next, and we see him losing heavily at the table before being approached by a couple of interesting, colourful looking young ladies,
Scam artists.
hookers, who spike his drink.
Yeah, but from his subsequent behaviour, probably didn't need to spike his drink.
No, he'd have been up for it anyway. And
Yeah.
he's an idiot. He's stupid.
Yeah, he's probably not been attractive to women before and everything.
The thing is, we find out in a moment that he has a wallet full of cash, but we just saw him pay his debt or buy more money using his gold card.
Yep.
So why carry a big wad of cash? That just asks to be taken from you.
I think he's a show-off.
But he's
He
not
wants people to see he's got this wad of cash when he opens his wallet, and he wants them to see his shiny gold card.
sure. I suppose it's the type of thing that if you have been skint, then all of a sudden you come into money.
Yeah.
You do want to present it to people.
Yeah.
So from the casino, we head over to basically a brothel.
I thought it was a hotel room in the same building, but okay.
Didn't look the decor didn't look particularly hotel-like. In any case, doesn't matter.
He's separated from his cash very quickly.
Yet through a woozy lens, we see him being robbed by the hooker before being undressed, and they engage in a bit of rough stuff.
Well, at first it looked to me like he went to be amorous with her and she stood on his foot as
She
a sort
did,
of a
yes.
back off, but it wasn't a back off at all because she continues with the exchange, shall we say.
Yeah, and the next morning he wakes up, and this bit I had to watch it a few times and I still don't understand. He didn't hide in it. I thought at first he was in a cupboard or under
No,
a
he's just at
table,
the side of the room, getting dressed.
just standing a few feet away.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Some guy comes in and argues with the woman and then shoots her dead.
Yes.
And as he's leaving, Lenny makes this involuntary noise at seeing the dead body.
He's right beside them.
Yeah, he's just But the guy only had eyes for this woman. What did he think was happening in this brothel, though? Oh, she'll be in there alone, naked in the bed.
It's terrible. He's just standing like 2 foot away. And yeah, okay, he makes this noise.
Yeah, the guy spots him, turns and shoots a couple of times. Lenny falls to the floor, and the man leaves.
Okay.
But he's not dead.
No, he inspects his injuries and finds out that the bullets have pierced his shirt, left a scorch mark on him, but bounced off his body.
No, they didn't.
Didn't?
No. Well, he thinks that.
Yeah, of course.
That's absurd. That couldn't happen.
Back to the Spearfish house. An ecstatic Lenny, this is dreadful. He's returned to Alice and he goes, oh wait, I've got something to tell you.
Yeah.
So I was doing these 2 hookers, right, while I was drunk, and someone shot her and tried to shoot me, but look, I'm bulletproof. This is effectively what he was saying.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean 2 hookers? Oh, no, that's not the point, right?
Why do you always have to focus on the negatives?
Yeah. He gets an idea.
And she's an idiot as well. What's she doing?
I don't know. But he comes back all chuffed. Oh, wait you hear this? Wait till you hear this, darling. Right. So,
can you imagine if she came home and tried that?
Plus, what happens is you go to the cops. She must be like, you witnessed someone being murdered. Go to the police.
Well, I think the police have already spoken to him about it.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but he's like, just brushes that aside. Yeah, never mind that. Look. Okay, marks on my shirt.
I can never die.
Do you know what that sounds like? It sounds like, oh no, the police are probably coming to my house anyway, right? I've probably been caught on CCTV. I've got to come up with an excuse to the wife, right? So it's the most absurd, ridiculous thing, you know, that more believable. Do you know what? I'm bulletproof. You know, that's why. Oh God, the 2 of them are just a complete.
Yeah. Back in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Adam's testimony is being met with howls of laughter. I don't know if it's being met with howls of laughter or if he's imagining the howls of laughter. So if he was imagining it, that would explain why the judge isn't stopping them.
True, but it did seem to be
It did
real.
seem to be real, didn't it?
And he's getting flustered.
Well, he seems to be getting flustered. Jonathan's outside waiting to be called as a witness.
Yeah, because just to elaborate on that, he is misjudging his responses. There's a lot of double entendre. It doesn't mean, which is creating this hilarity.
Yeah, he thought he was telling her not to worry about the kipper, but the language used might suggest she used the kipper in a sexual way.
Meanwhile, Maddie speaks to Jonathan, who is waiting to be called outside, and tells him about the Spearfish developments.
Yes, he's sceptical, as you would imagine, and says she should check whether the burn marks wash off.
Yeah, he's too busy to go and meet with him that night, and that's what he advises. So we're over to the Spearfish home again. Now, as Lenny swims outside, Maddie chats with Alice.
Of course, the danger with something like this is your imagination starts filling in the gaps. Like this contract with the devil bursting into flames. Well, maybe there was something else in that tea chest that was combustible, or...
It was just old papers from the loft. Letters and diaries of my mum's. Stuff from my dad's. Both deceased, but you know how you hang on to things. I'd hate to think what they'd have made of all this.
Religious people?
Very proper and correct. She'd worked in service to dukes and lords and goodness knows who else. She was very conscious of her place. He was a devout Catholic. Brought me up with a very clear idea of good and evil. Well, I'm sure it's the same in your religion. I mean, we both worship the God of Abraham.
Well, yeah, I mean... No, sorry, actually, I'm not...
Anyway, this prostitute thing. I rang up the police and they had him straight down there to identify the body and everything. It seems she'd basically been double-crossing this bloke she worked for. He was a bit of a psycho. He just let her have it. They said if he finds out Lenny's still alive as a witness to the murder...
If you're going to put all this in your book, then maybe you should inspect the evidence.
Even that clip there, it was pure exposition. There was no organic reason for that conversation to take the turn. And
very much, we need her to talk about her parents here. Let's find her talking to Maddie.
Yeah. And, I mean, her dismissing, oh yeah, it was just full of old papers.
Yeah, she's no idea what was in that box. Nobody has any idea what's in these old boxes in their house.
Yeah. And old papers are ripe for catching fire at the slightest spark.
Exactly. And there's that stupid joke about the Maddie looking Jewish thing again.
Anyway, So, as we heard at the end of the clip there, Maddie inspects the burn marks on Lenny's body, but they're interrupted by the terrifying sight of Troy approaching with a rifle.
Yes, he's the man who shot at Lenny previously, and he's here to finish the job.
He takes aim, but Lenny is now full of confidence. I mean, you would need to test this thing out. So, say it happened once, right? And you find you don't automatically assume that you're invincible
Forever.
You would test this thing out beforehand, would you not?
Especially if he's got other marks on him.
Yeah. I mean, you run into a wall a little bit at first, see if that hurts. You know?
Yeah, I mean, they've burnt his chest, so it's done something to him. So he must not be completely invulnerable.
Yeah, but the guy is a moron and he thinks, I cannot be killed now. Go on.
Cannot be killed. That's exactly what he thinks.
Yeah.
And his thoughts are reinforced by what happens next.
What happens next?
The guy has some kind of seizure and dies.
Yeah, he falls to the poolside.
Yeah.
And we see blood trickle into the water before Maddie runs over to confirm that he is dead.
Yeah.
Windmill. A disturbed Maddie is explaining to Jonathan what happened, and she mentions a little red mark which disappeared from his cheek. I think she says like a red birthmark.
Yeah, that's what a birthmark looks like.
No, we can talk about it later when we find out what it was, but there's no way you're mistaking a birthmark for what it turned out to be.
Yeah, she goes on to say it's like something out of a Frank Capra movie.
Oh, yeah.
What are your top 3 Frank Capra movies?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah?
It's a Wonderful Life Part 2.
Uh-huh.
And It's a Wonderful Life the third.
Those are actually my 3 favourites as well.
Yeah.
Maddie's shocked at this stage to find Jonathan starching and ironing her underwear.
Yeah, quite a massive piece of underwear as well. You could have slept in that.
Okay.
There's a hammock.
I get the impression he doesn't have much experience with dealing with ladies' undergarments. Yeah.
Not laundering them.
No, because
Neither do I. Do you?
you wouldn't put starch on your own underwear.
I wouldn't put starch. I don't know what starch is.
And neither you use it for shirt collars and stuff
Yeah.
to make them stiffen.
Oh.
Why would you want to? Oh, I don't know. It seems to be this is just his routine. He starches and irons everything that he irons. I think that's the suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Maddie is stunned at this and unhappy, so she quickly puts the bra on and suggests that Lenny might have stolen the jewels and covered it up by pretending to dig them up and throw his wife off the scent.
Yeah. I think Jonathan rules out some of the, I hate to use the word, but probable causes, poisoned arrows, but that would be ridiculous as well.
Yeah. I mean, I should say that we don't see her putting the bra on, but she has it on in the next scene, so she must swap off with the perfectly comfortable one she's wearing for this one.
Where are we?
Yeah, Jonathan's dismissing her theory and saying that he doesn't see Lenny as a Machiavellian trickster because there's no audience to these deceptions.
What was her theory? Did you mention it?
Yeah, that he stole the jewels and he was covering it up.
Yeah, but I think that's quite a sensible suggestion. When you can, well, it's more sensible than what the actual solution is.
I mean, we get another trope immediately after when Jonathan says he's very impressed, but it turns out he's talking about his own washing.
Managed to get a curry stain out of something.
Where, once again, Jonathan being an arse to Maddie for no apparent reason.
Yeah. And yeah, as you mentioned there, the problem he has is not just that the tricks themselves, but there was no witnesses.
Yeah, so what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Just then, his marbles are set rolling in his head as he reflects on what Maddie said about Capra.
Yep.
But he can't quite solidify what it means as yet.
Seen that before.
Mm-hmm. She then ponders if she may be Jewish. Before the second mention of before the second mention of foreskins in 2 episodes.
I think that's 2 mentions too many.
I would agree.
On the way to the Spearfish home, we find that Maddie's bra is upsetting her, so obviously she has put it on.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan's not interested. He's away to look at the swimming pool where the bloodstain remains in place.
Mm-hmm. And a cocky Lenny strolls over and asks if a crime writer and a gynaecologist are the new fashion in crime solving.
That sounds like a BBC series to me.
It does. Probably back then it was a joke, but you think, yeah, now writers are running out of ideas, right? What can we have?
Monkey tennis.
Precisely. Jonathan then mentions the mark on Troy's face, but he gets no response from Lenny, who is showing off his Rolex.
Yeah, and there's a funny mark on his wrist as he's doing that, so still not invulnerable.
Inside, Alice talks to Maddie about the financial advisor, and apparently Anthea Spacey does not exist. Now, there's far too much emphasis or weight put on this.
Yeah, the suggestion I think they want you to take is that she is a phantom of some kind.
Yes.
But what I took was she's trying to steal your money.
Precisely. The initial thoughts you would have in this situation are, okay, she's either just an out-and-out con woman, or, like many people, she is a financial advisor, but
Unlicensed.
Unlicensed. She's perhaps not passed her exams and she hasn't registered with the... that's what I would immediately think. I wouldn't... she must be a phantom. Yeah, she must be a ghost. Must work for MI5.
It's a guardian angel.
No, I just think she's unqualified or just a con woman.
Yes, exactly. Meanwhile, Jonathan's discovering that Lenny didn't grow up religious the way that Alice did.
Correct.
He's from a London family. They're proper people. And he never used to believe, and he still doesn't sometimes.
No, that's the thing. He's just happy to ride this situation out.
Yeah, something's turned his life around. He's not knocking it. He's not questioning it. He's happy to be wealthy and not care.
A little bit later inside, Anthea is there and has some good news for Lenny.
Yeah, she says he's raised a huge amount of money. It doesn't specify because we don't get to see it, but again, you're thinking she's lying. She's stolen your money. Nothing's been invested. You haven't made this money.
She goes to the bathroom and Jonathan looks at a childhood picture of Alice alongside a more recent one of her and Lenny.
Yeah. Maddie's heading out to scout around the financial advisor's car, so she asks Jonathan to keep an eye out and maybe talk to her when she tries to leave to stop.
But he doesn't do a very good job because...
even try.
No, she comes out, gets into her car. Now, Maddie had to put the driver's seat forward to squeeze into the back. So Anthea obviously sits in the driver's seat and pushes it back, squashing Maddie.
That you would notice.
Yeah, and drives off for a number of miles, and Maddie doesn't escape until Anthea stops to get fuel.
That's right. Fortunately, she required fuel, but she also required to make a phone call. Or did she take a phone call?
She takes a phone call.
She took a phone call in the car on the way to the station, and she says, "It's not getting any easier. To be honest, I'm running out of ideas."
Mm-hmm. And when Maddie escapes from the car at the fuel petrol station, she is spotted by a cop.
Fondling herself.
She is indeed. Lying on the ground on a petrol station forecourt, rubbing her bosom.
But she covers up by finding a dirty, oily rag on the floor and blowing her nose with it.
She then sees a tailback of cars headed by Jonathan driving.
This was the highlight of the entire episode for me. This was the one bit that worked.
Yeah, so okay, describe exactly what happens.
So Jonathan is going at maybe 10 miles an hour on this 30 mile an hour road, and there's a long line of people honking their horns. And
he's driving Maddie's car.
He's driving Maddie's car, and when she gets in, she asks if he's never driven an automatic before. And he explains that he's never driven a car before. And you hear the squealing of brakes. That must be him.
Yep, and it's a very quick cut.
Yeah, they've swapped over.
Yes. And she tells him, as she's driving, what she heard Anthea discuss, and he mentions Lenny's wrists before they arrive at the pub.
Yeah, he says things are unreal, so I think he is thinking a different meaning of unreal from the one that we're led down the path towards.
Mm-hmm. In the pub, and through a flashback, Jonathan offers an explanation as to what may have occurred.
Yeah, he says that Lenny probably paid extra for pain, and that explains the stamping on the foot, and it would explain why there are cigarette burns on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
And handcuffs probably that grazed his wrists. The bullets probably just missed. And Maddie suddenly recalls that Jonathan's an expert on handcuff abrasions. Is that a reference to No Time for Tracy?
No Trace of Tracy.
No Trace of Tracy, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't remember any other handcuff related mysteries.
Maybe it's something that was between them.
Maybe. She invites him over to her place, obviously feeling very horny now they've mentioned handcuffs.
Yes, this is the thing that I don't particularly mind if it had been a build up to it, but it seemed to come out of the blue.
Yeah,
really.
And Jonathan doesn't really seem to have much input into this entire thing.
No, they enter her house in the dark, and she immediately grabs his hand, makes him fondle her.
Yeah, that's sexual assault right away there.
Yeah, and they're about to get down to it, whether Jonathan likes it or not, when he is saved by someone at the door.
Alice, what? It's all over. couldn't live with myself, how could I live with him? God will forgive, I kept telling him. But you have to let go. You have to stop wanting it and just settle for what we had before. No way, he said he wasn't going back to those days again. I said, well, you'll have to take the consequences. I can't go on with it, so... It's not like I've stopped loving him, it's just... I don't know, it frightens me so much, all this. I just had to get some space.
Of course. You have my bed tonight. We'll grab some sofas.
I'm not sure that Alice is heading for a happy ending here.
No. She believes clearly in this mumbo jumbo, and we'll discuss at the end. The resolution, I don't think, is going to help her mental state in any way.
No. She is invited to stay over for the evening, but doesn't appear to be there in the morning when, talking of happy endings, Jonathan has found something he likes on the internet.
It's amazing what you can find on the internet. Yeah,
These
right,
days,
Jonathan, yeah.
Series of still photos.
That could have been worse for Maddie. Jonathan hunched over. Oh. Anyway,
He's late for court because he's been occupied by whatever he was doing online and rushes off.
yes, I think he mentions that he's got an explanation for the vanishing birthmark. In the court, he finds Adam in fine spirits due to an upsurge. I don't think we mentioned this before. He was having trouble with selling his worldwide tour in France.
Yes, the venues in Paris and Toulouse and somewhere else are not shifting the tickets, but now they are.
Yes,
The French papers love a sex scandal.
apparently.
This appears to be an anti-French joke, or some kind of stereotype, I would imagine.
It's not like the tabloids over here don't like a sex scandal.
We're kind of bumped back to the Spearfish home fairly quickly, where Lenny is talking.
Yes, he's speaking to Anthea in her car, and she seems concerned to hear the news of the breakup from Lenny. And what does she suggest?
That they essentially push Alice out if she's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Just cut her out of it altogether, get her to sign a document that puts her rights out of the question.
Mm-hmm. He agrees.
I don't think he's excited about it, but I think he's prepared to go along with it.
He accepts it.
Yeah.
Back to the court. Jonathan is now in the witness stand and is finding it difficult to perjure himself.
Well, he's being asked questions about Adam's promiscuity, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in the audience are laughing, or in the galleries they're laughing, and Maddie comes in and sits next to a Jewish man, which prompts a eureka moment.
Yeah, it seems to trigger something in Jonathan, who stares very oddly at her before they get to speak in the hall.
Yes, Maddie tells him about this sort of post-nuptial type agreement, and Alice is on her way to the house now to sign. But Jonathan's worked it all out, and he's going to fill Maddie in on the way.
Indeed. So, we're at the Spearfish home, and a very worried-looking Alice is clearly confused by the legal paperwork presented to her. And a stern Anthea and Lenny look on. They seem to be applying pressure for her to sign this.
Yeah, and Jonathan and Maddie arrive, and when you would expect Jonathan to maybe talk her out of it, he instead encourages her to sign the document.
Well, yes, Anthea says they will need 2 witnesses to sign it. She seems surprised when Jonathan casually accepts the offer, signs the document, and hands the pen to a shattered Alice, who does the same thing.
And runs in tears out to the garden.
Mm-hmm. Lenny looks on after her, and we can see that things are starting to change. He's melting a little bit here, and after considering things for a moment, refuses to sign himself and goes running after his wife. True love.
Oh yeah, he's such a good guy.
And at this point, we find out more about Anthea and her involvement.
Well, it seems I totally misjudged them.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, Miss Spacey, or whatever your name is. I think you judged them both to perfection.
Cutting her off without a penny was never the object of the exercise. The whole point was to take them right up to the wire and back again.
I haven't a clue what you're talking about.
Clues. Yes, there were plenty of them knocking about. But they all got obscured by this pact with the devil nonsense. Impressionable young couple, one of them starts dabbling in the occult. What else are they going to think when their whole life starts changing for no apparent reason? They're not going to know it would have changed anyway. That Mickey Mouse manuscript had nothing to do with anything. You hit it square on when you said this had the echo of a Frank Capra movie. Frank Capra, whose most famous film
It's a Wonderful Life.
was all about...
A man who's saved by a guardian angel.
Someone, some mystery benefactor, was making all this happen. Someone rich enough to finance buried treasure in the garden and miracle profits on the stock exchange. But how is it being engineered? You don't just guess that someone's about to dig up an old tree. That points to some kind of surveillance. Professional operators watching their every move. The thing with the bullets we know was a fluke. But what about that stump by the pool?
Even Jonathan's summary in this episode, that was dreadful.
It's terrible. It's terrible, 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 terrible.
Yeah.
It's worse than No Time for Norman. It's by far the worst explanation.
Yeah.
By far the worst clues. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, there are tons of clues knocking about.
In season 1 and 2, Jonathan would have refused to get involved with this.
Mm-hmm.
He would have said, "This is ridiculous, leave me out of it."
Yeah.
In this episode, he seems to be excited about solving it. To what end? He's only telling someone who already knows.
Yeah.
He's not revealing anything to anybody except for the viewer.
Frank Capra, you know, his most famous movie.
If
It's a Wonderful Life.
If it's that famous, why we haven't been told about it?
Dearie me. Jonathan goes on to explain how that was achieved and what the vanishing red mark had to do with it.
This is an even worse part of the explanation.
Okay.
It's some kind of laser-guided taser that was pointed at his face but then shot him in the back. So not the best laser in the world.
The complications around that, you know, the riskiness involved in trying to pull that off and people not seeing the bit of string.
Yeah, which I went back and watched and was not in the original shot.
Of course not.
And Jonathan comes up with this garbage, like if it's not MI5 then it's MI something. A figure with so much clout it's frightening. It's all garbage, 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 garbage.
Yep, it's garbage all right. And he had already noticed a photo of Alice and her parents and realised the biological inconsistency of them both having blue eyes whilst Alice's were brown.
Yeah, they're actually whites that have been turned by the Night King.
So here's another point. There needed to be a scene in here where Jonathan made sure that Alice was not adopted, and even then you wouldn't know that perhaps Alice's mother had an affair. There are all sorts of other explanations.
There's also the fact that it's very unlikely but not impossible.
Yeah. Yep. It's not like, oh, look, I looked at a picture and the parents have got blue eyes, Alice's got brown, therefore she's the daughter of royalty. You know,
Yeah.
she's probably a princess. It's rubbish.
Yeah. No, it's absolute garbage. The
Yeah.
whole thing is just a lot of
It
nonsense.
talks about the money and all that. It might have been, even if we go down that route of some benefactor, it's not that incredible. You know, they might have been a millionaire
Yeah.
or a billionaire, just someone very, very rich. It doesn't have to be, you know, some sort of government or royal involvement here.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Do you think it was actually James Hewitt that was the father?
No, he doesn't have any money.
That's true. That's true. The bit about burning the house down with a remote control was stupid.
Okay, before we get there, let's wrap things up. So it turns out that the gifts and the fortune were meant for Alice, not for Lenny.
Yeah, that was a stupid idea. Then let's give it to her unreliable, gambling drunkard of a husband who likes to use prostitutes.
Precisely.
That's a great way to get it to her for certain. She'll not miss out that way.
No. So to be clear, turns out that she was likely the illegitimate child of some member of the aristocracy. And they were looking after her, making sure she was set for life, and they wanted to test Lenny as well to make sure that they were a
solid couple.
Yeah, but they weren't. Because the first sign of a bit of cash, he was out doing hookers.
Yes. But yeah, they decided, oh yeah, it's true love.
Yeah, so the torching of the house, that was to cover up any potential evidence in the form of diaries or leaks. As we heard in one of the clips previously, she'd kept her mother's, documents, so there might have been something in the house.
That doesn't make sense, though. They broke into the house. Instead of taking the things that they needed, they burned it down.
Mm-hmm. I suppose they wouldn't have known
and
what to take.
Instead of burning it down, they put a remote control device that was operated remotely.
Well, here's the thing. So the fire brigade would have been in there, and the insurance companies, etc. They worked out. It's very easy for these professionals to work out what caused the fire.
Yeah.
So are we suggesting they were paid off as well?
I don't know. It's all absurd. There's a reference made to plugging a leak when Lenny looks like he's going to lose all the money.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What did they do?
That was
So the women, were they there to stop Lenny? Did they take the money off Lenny to keep it safe?
Yeah, that might have been the hookers.
So they were in on it. They were protecting him. Why were they sleeping with him then?
Yeah, listen, I don't know. It's just dreadful.
And then she states that she's sure Maddie and Jonathan will keep it to themselves, and Maddie says no.
Yeah, this is dreadful. The easiest thing to do would have been to take Alice aside, explain the situation, let her know, and it's her right to know. It's her business, and say, keep it quiet, keep it under your hat, and Alice isn't the type who's going to blab.
And also, she doesn't get any closure on this.
Well, that's my point. So what they've done instead is they've kept it from her, the person who's entitled to find out, two strangers, one being a bloody journalist, a big gob journalist, and she just walks away and leaves these two people.
Well, we don't get any resolution at all.
We don't. So Alice is an emotional person anyway, who we know believes in this nonsense, okay, who now thinks that bullets were bouncing off people.
And the devil gave them money.
The devil gave them money, yeah. And she's left with that.
But because, he didn't sign the papers and they hugged each other, therefore everything will always be fine now for them.
Yeah. And we've got, two people about to blab. There's no way of trusting them. If you were involved in that, a year or two down the line, you speak to someone and you say, listen, don't say anything, but do you know what, in case I was involved, I'll bet you won't believe this. And then as soon as you tell someone, that's it. Everyone knows.
Is there an implied threat here to Maddie and Jonathan?
There was, but I mean, it has to be a bigger threat than that.
Yeah.
That might work. Let's say that works for the first week or two where you go, better not say anything, but a year down, there's been nothing. You think, do you know what? I'm going to tell someone. Yeah. You can't keep that.
Stupid.
It's
stupid.
It's stupid.
Also, we should point out from this royal person's point of view, his plan's stupid.
Yeah,
he came up with this at all.
Well, they're royalty. You'd expect. They're not regarded as being the sharpest tools.
Some kind of tools.
But so a poor effort.
Yeah, terrible.
I mean, it's got the feeling that perhaps it was fired off, written in a weekend. The rest of the episodes are the better ones are, developed over months and weeks. This is like, quick, I need an episode.
Well, this one looks like one that started at the end. So they've said we've got a conspiracy where a member of the royal family has a secret love child that they want to get money to, but she thinks it's come from a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Build a story around that.
Well, you'd a better solution. I think earlier we discussed this. Yeah. You said it would be better if what?
Yeah, I thought a better way of doing a similar story with the deal with the devil and so on would be if Alice had come into the money illicitly and was pulling the wool over Lenny's eyes.
So perhaps she had an affair with a
royal herself or something like that. She was in around these households when she was a child. And maybe she was using this whole God-fearing thing as a cover to protect herself. That would have been a better twist, I think.
Sure.
We've then got one more ridiculous scene, the worst of the Adam scenes in this episode to come.
Okay, back at the court.
Yeah, the case has collapsed because all along he's had statements from other people saying that she did the same thing to them. It's a scam.
Yeah, he says good has triumphed over evil. Again,
I do say that myself all the time. Anytime I win anything, or my football team wins, I'll tweet that out.
Yeah.
But yes, no, it's...
But Adam appears smarter than what you might think, certainly from a marketing point of view.
Yeah, but procedurally, can you actually do this? Can you introduce new evidence in this way that's dated previously? The judge might say this is not admissible. You had this available.
It's a risk.
Earlier on.
It's a risk. But what's happened?
He's got these depositions, like I said, from these people who she's scammed previously, who've paid to shut her up. but they're 5 weeks old. He's had them ahead of the trial, but he's let the trial go so that they get the scandal to sell the tickets.
Mm-hmm. Decent idea if you get away with it.
Yeah. On her way out, the woman, now furious, throws a glass of juice over him, and he says he's now got coke up his nose.
Yep, Maddie makes a little comment about that.
Oh, hilarious reference to cocaine there.
Mhm.
There's a novelty, she says.
And I think she makes reference to needing a magnifying glass.
Oh, for his, yes.
Small
Oh,
genitalia.
yeah, the woman does, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So she must have seen it anyway. She did walk
Yes,
in.
his thing did open, but he wasn't propositioning her.
Yeah.
That's the end, and it's...
Not quite. As he is complaining about having coke up his nose, Maddie says that, never mind that, she could recommend a good laundry service and a gynaecologist before Jonathan, from behind, covers her mouth and notes that it is just her Jewish humour.
That's not funny.
You
liked it?
Sorry. Compared to the rest of it, it wasn't the worst, but yeah.
From a trivia point of view, I've got a note here that the whole thread about people mistaking Maddie for being Jewish comes from that happening to David Rennick sometimes.
Did it really?
Apparently. And also from conversations he had with Caroline Quentin and the director Keith Washington, who had similar experiences apparently.
What is this about people? Who cares what religion you are?
Yeah.
Why is this like everyone's thinking that you're some sort of... I don't understand it.
I don't know.
Why would it crop up in a day-to-day?
I don't understand why. Yeah, so if someone thinks you look Jewish, they felt they had to mention that.
Oh,
People are weird. He says that he wondered if it's because there are so many successful Jewish comedians and sitcom writers in America.
Let's just wrap this thing up, Ian, yeah?
Okay, quickly.
27th of November 1999 was the original air date, and we're going back to Keith Washington. I don't think I mentioned last week, but it was Sandy Johnson who jumped in for the special, for the Christmas special, but we're back to Keith. Andrew Tiernan played Lenny. He was born in 1965. He has been in 300 Rise of an Empire, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, The Pianist, The Prisoner's Wives, Doctor Who, Casualty, The Bill, New Tricks, Cracker, Prime Suspect and Between the Lines.
Been in a lot of things.
He has. You wouldn't have thought that he would have.
Based on this performance, yeah.
Rachel Power played Alice. Born in 1968, she has appeared in Doctors, The Bill, Casualty, Our Mutual Friend, No Bananas, Holding On and Middlemarch. This is quite interesting. In 2004, she was a winning contestant on The Weakest Link.
Huh, that is the most interesting thing about her.
Not a celebrity version, obviously, because she's not a celebrity.
Yeah.
Debbie Arnold played Sadie, born in 1957, the daughter of impressionist Eddie Arnold, and she also went into that profession. So she's quite a prolific voice actress and also an actress, starring in Coronation Street, Doctors, Holby City, Hollyoaks, EastEnders, Emmerdale, The Bill, Minder and Shoestring, amongst other things. She is the mother of Hollyoaks actress Kiara Jansen. Don't know who she is.
No.
Jeremy, the barrister, was played by a very famous person here. Griff Rhys-Jones, born in 1953. He is most famous for numerous variations of Smith & Jones, Not the 9 O'Clock News, Wilt, that's a decent movie that, based on a number of books. I think I've read them when I was younger. Casualty, Tales from the Poop Deck and The Young Ones. He has won 2 Olivier Theatre Awards in 1984 and 1994, and he is the former Vice President of the Cambridge Footlights. You recognised the accuser, didn't you?
Yeah, it's Maxine Peake.
It is. Born in 1974, starred in Shameless, The Village, Silk, Criminal Justice, Little Dorrit, See No Evil, in which she played Myra Hindley. Now, that was a good... Did you see it, yeah?
Yeah, she was very good in that.
Apparently as well, in Shameless... Was it Shameless? Yeah, somebody looked at her passport photo and made a quip that she looked like Myra Hindley.
Right.
And Shameless, then she went on to play Myra Hindley. And she also starred in Dinner Ladies and Children's Ward.
Yeah, I know that she did Dinner Ladies straight out of acting school and was kind of tutored a bit by Victoria Wood.
Yes. Ajoa Ando played Anthea Spacey. Born in 1963, she has been in Invictus, Thunderbirds Are Go, Law and Order, MI High, Missing, Doctor Who, The Bill, 98 episodes of Casualty, Health and Efficiency, and The Tomorrow People. Did you recognise her from Casualty?
Casualty in Doctor Who, she played Martha Jones' mother and she was one of the Doctor's assistants.
Okay.
in Doctor Who.
And finally, Troy was played by Brett Fancy. That's an interesting name.
I was sure it was David Schneider.
Yes, he did look like David Schneider. Born in 1964, he has starred in Doctors, EastEnders, The Bill, Hobie City, Casualty, Square Deal, Rockcliffe's Babies, and The Last Salute. Not The Last Salute to the Commodore, fortunately.
Penultimate salute to the Commodore.
Indeed.
The last salute was a one-fingered salute to the Commodore.
Episode review. It's going to be interesting this week because it doesn't really fit.
Okay.
Motive.
To get the money to Alice.
Yeah. Clues. Okay, so it's her parents' background, the fact that her parents are dead, I suppose, the different eye colours, the vanishing mark, the mark on their wrists, and Anthea being unregistered.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. If I've missed anything, I can't be bothered looking over it again.
It's not that important.
Nope. And with regards to guilty, not guilty, there's not really... Nothing's going to court here.
Well, somebody killed Troy,
Yeah,
but they're protected.
they are.
Adam is not guilty. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Next time, we've got the eyes of the... How are you pronouncing this, Ian?
I'm not. I haven't read it yet.
Okay. Yes, you have. There's there. Tiresias.
Okay.
Who knows?
We'll find out next week. Someone will say it in the
Tiresias,
episode.
yeah, I'm sure they will.
Little bits of rubbish trivia. In the dinner scene at the start, the dessert was stood in for by Angel Delight. Caroline Quentin was 3 months pregnant when this was being filmed. I found that particularly sickening, having to eat 8 bowls over 7 hours of filming.
I like Angel Delight.
I remember actually, as a child, going for dinner to family friends, and we never had Angel Delight at home, and we got Angel Delight, and my mother hates it, and she was trying to be polite, so she ate it really quickly, and the host thought she must really enjoy it and refilled her bowl. One other little bit of trivia. Alan Davis has commented that when they went to these millionaires' houses, they found it all rather isolated and thought they would make terrible millionaires, and I can only imagine he now knows what it's like to be a millionaire.
Without a doubt. Okay, that's us then, yeah?
Yeah, we'll see folk next time.
Wash your hands of that one.
Yeah.
Cheerio.
Bye.